Let's bring in author and security analyst Saul Sadka to discuss the violence in Syria. Saul, great to see you today.
Great to be with you.
Right, so why do you think Israel is so focused on the Druze community? Does this point to a broader strategy by Israel to shape Syria's post-Assad future?
I wouldn't say so. My assumption is that Israel wants to be as disinvolved as possible from dealing with what goes on inside Syria. The reason I believe the Israelis got involved yesterday when they did, and let's note they got involved successfully. The point was to prevent a genocide, or at least a localized ethnic cleansing that was taking place. Whatever caused the initial clashes, whether it was Bedouins who were attacking the Druze and there were recriminations, by yesterday morning it was quite clear that there was ethnic slaughter going on and the Druze were the victims. And the Jews of the Levant, who now have a state, Israel, have been in alliance with the Druze for nearly 100 years now. There are Druze fighting in the IDF, and we fight alongside each other. So when the jihadis came, we have to remember that the current Syrian government is a brand new creation that only a few months ago was just a ragtag bunch of jihadis that suddenly conquered the entire territory. Whether or not jihadis can be trusted to respect minorities is very unlikely. These are people who are allied with the very same people who committed a genocide against the Yazidis, who have been committing terrible crimes against the Kurds for decades.
Right.
They simply cannot be trusted. So when it became clear that the Druze were under attack, Israel stepped up into action, and as a result, the jihadis that came as part of the current Syrian regime have now withdrawn from the Druze areas and gone back to Damascus.
Right, and Syria's president has vowed to protect, the Druze minority following deadly sectarian violence. How significant do you think this pledge is within Syria's broader internal dynamics?
Well, look, Syria is a state that exists because of the Sykes-Picot Agreement from approximately 120 years ago. It was divided up by the British and the French. There is no ethnic unity within that country. There are Alawites, and there are Druze, and there are Kurds, other minor groups as well, and there are Christians. Can a jihadist group that was until recently allied with Al-Qaeda, led by a man who claims to want to reform, and yet he wears a suit, but we know that until recently he was an active jihadist. Can he really be trusted to protect these minorities? It's unclear. But for the Druze can rest assured that if their regime comes for them, if the Syrians fail to protect them, or as we saw yesterday, not only fail to protect them, but have their own people take part in massacres against them, Israel will make them pay a heavy price for their actions.
Right, and talking about heavy price, we've seen Israeli strikes in response to the attacks, the violence near the Golan Heights. From your perspective in Tel Aviv, where you're speaking to us from, what's Israel hoping, to achieve by these attacks? And could they ultimately, help or hurt Israel's security interests themselves?
Look, it's in Israel's interest. It's a moral interest, let's put it this way. The Jews know what it's like to be a minority in the Middle East. The Jews have been a minority in the Middle East for 2,000 years, maybe longer. And it's in our interest to ensure that other minority groups do not suffer the same persecutions that we've suffered and that they too have suffered. And the Jews currently number 8 million in the Middle East, and we have a strong army. And certainly protecting other minorities is the right moral thing to do. And that's exactly what happened yesterday. Within 12 hours of Israel strikes, the attackers left In other words, Israel prevented far, far worse bloodshed. And all the people that are attacking Israel for preventing a potential genocide should really be considering what they're saying. The same people that said this are the same people that warned that when Israel attacked Iran, that this was going to trigger World War III. In fact, of course, by greatly denuding Iran's offensive abilities and at least putting off by a couple of years its ability to build a nuclear bomb, they didn't start World War III, they prevented it. Same thing happened yesterday. People who warned that Israel was attacking offensively and risked starting a major conflagration, on the contrary, they prevented one. They stopped one from happening. And I personally think Israel deserves a lot of credit for what they did yesterday.
Right, and you spoke about, Israel, having great interest in this because of a lot of things that you just spoke about. Considering the strategic location of the Druze community, which is closer to Israel's border, near the Israeli border, how might this latest unrest complicate Israel's military and diplomatic posture in the region?
Well, there was talk a week ago when Netanyahu was in Washington that Syria was among the nations who was expected to join the Abraham Accords. And there was much excitement about this. And I personally hope that this can actually happen. It would be wonderful to see Israel join the Abraham Accords. And if, Syria join the Abraham Accords. And if Syria joined, of course, Lebanon would join too, which would be an incredible thing for Israel and the region. However, that can't come at the price of making deals with literally the devil. And what we saw yesterday, we saw groups of jihadi fighters from all over the world who are part of the HTS organization that now runs Syria, heading down to commit war crimes against innocent people. If those are the people that are running Syria, unfortunately, it looks like peace with Syria is far off. And that is a far greater problem for Syria than it is for Israel. Israel has existed now for 78 years and has never had peace with Syria, and Israel is doing just fine. It's one of the wealthiest countries in the world with a strong and deterring military. Syria, on the other hand, has been a basket case for 15 years and has absolutely no economy. Peace with Israel would be an incredible boon for Syria, but if Syria is going to be run by jihadists, then Israel will have to take a pass until Syria gets itself in order, I would say.
And there has been growing international interest and attention to this violence. What comments or reaction from global leaders has stood out for you?
It's been quite shocking to see particularly the comments from the people at the UN that you played earlier, who were criticizing Israel for their attacks yesterday. Their attacks, the attacks that Israel performed yesterday on targets related to the Syrian regime, which either allowed or sent. Either they sent the attackers to attack the Druze, or their own people got out of control. Either way, they were their people. There's no question. And Israel stopped that from happening. Their fighters withdrew from the city the very same day that Israel attacked. The event should be considered as over, and it should be considered a fabulous success that this potential genocide was staved off, even though hundreds of innocent people were killed in barbaric, horrifying ways that reminded everyone of Israel of October 7th. Israel was not going to stand by, and to criticize Israel for not standing by as people were being massacred 50 kilometers from its borders is quite bizarre, particularly coming from international organizations.
Saul, thank you once again.
My pleasure. Thank you.